G'day, welcome back to Brupeg. We're on the cusp of heading north, but to do that we need our stabilisers working. They need to be nice and flappy, so let's get them going Angry Bird style.
Brupeg was a sunken fishing trawler that was stripped out and ready for the scrapyard. She's just completed a 10-year rebuild that's brought her back to life. With the help of volunteers and funded by our Patreons, community and subscribers, she'll be crewed by passionate people from around the world. If you'd like to be involved and support the project, please consider joining us on Patreon or subscribe to the channel. There's a link in the description below. A long time ago in a yard far away, we started building some airfoil wings for Brupeg to stop her having too much roll when we're at sea. There was a huge amount of work involved in this, from strengthening the hull, cutting into the original structure to give ourselves clearance, learning how to do structural welding, and a large amount of design on the fly to make sure that these wings fitted together. Once together, there's around 60 metres of continuous welding in each wing, so Jess and I spent days and days just welding these wings out. We then built strong points to mount the arms to the wings using some heavy duty steel. With those fitted, it was time to put the final skin on the back of each wing. With the wings now looking like wings, it was time to start test fitting them to Brupeg. With the fit confirmed, the wings were pulled off, sandblasted, pressure tested and ready to go. Pressure test complete, the wings were welded to the boat. With the wings sorted, it was now time to build arms that bolt the wings to the deck of Brupeg. Speaking of deck, we started reinforcing it. With the deck now ready, it was time to work on the sliders to allow the wings to go up and down and make a dating video for Trev.
Welcome back to Australia's Next Top Model. Our next contestant is wearing the fashionable Australian work boot, available in both left and right. Oh yeah, check out these moves, sexy ladies.
Tinder profile complete, it's now time to start working on the winches that allow the wings to go up and down properly, only for the winches to completely die in the salt air and the dust of the yard. Which brings us to today.
I have to apologise for the noise. Jess is out there cleaning the dinghy, getting it into high speed condition with the barnacles being removed. On this wing, on the port side, we've got this piece of stainless that comes out and around, welded to the wing itself, and we've got a 16mm pin. I can't move this because it's locked in there solid, but this is a 16mm stainless pin. And then down here, that there is a piece of 32mm solid stainless bar with a 16mm hole drilled in it, welded to the side of the boat, to the board. Now, this is how we secure the wings when they're up. This piece gets roped down so that it physically can't come out. The wing physically cannot come down if we don't want it to. We need to duplicate that onto the other side. Got everything running. Genset is firing up the batteries. You might be able to hear the genset out the back, I don't know. But over on this side of the boat, this is where we need to fit our new stainless wing holdy-uppy latchy thing. So let's get into making it. Okay, I went to the shop and I've got some 6mm by 75mm or 3" by 1/4 inch stainless steel flat bar. So I'm going to cut a length of that 200mm or 8 inches long. We've got a piece of 16mm, or I think that's 5/8 stainless rod, solid stainless rod. We've got to bend that into the pin shape, and then finally bit of offcut of 32mm solid bar as well, so 1.25 inch. Need to cut a length of that, probably, I don't know, yay long. Drill a hole down the center, that's a 16mm hole, and then this here gets welded into the side of the boat, so this is where the pin slides up and down through, so we don't have to worry about rust and things like that. So let's get into it and start chopping this up. There's my shape. It's going to see if that fits on the wing. Alright, so it's going to sit about there. Whee! Don't put it in the sea. Don't put it in the sea. Alright, so it's going to sit about there. So I need to weld it on, nice and accessible. Let's start working on the other parts. I've marked out an area, so I just need to grind that clean so that we can get this welded in. So we get it ground off, ready to weld. Alright, now the wing's ready to weld. I'm going to stop that and I'm going to actually cut this 32mm bar, this 1.25 inch bar. Because I want to be able to drill this as part of the whole structure. Doesn't make any sense now, it'll make sense in a minute. Before I cut this, I've given the end of it a bit of a clean up. You can see it's just nice and shiny, just makes welding a heck of a lot easier. Given the end a ground up so there's no like sharp edges or anything like that. So let's cut this to leg. And here's that same piece that I just cut, giving the end of it a bit of a clean up on the edge of the grinding wheel there, so that's why it looks like those cut marks are bigger than they are. It's not, it's just the edge is very flat, but that's going to become my new top surface. Alright, I need to start drilling things at this point, so what I'm thinking, mounting it there, so our edge is going to be front edge there, back edge there, bring that vertical, because what I don't want that dead flat onto here, I want to lift it up slightly, so let's go find something to use as a spacer, mark that there, and then our whole let's go pretty much central with that. Let's put a hole there. Okay, so my plan, it's a little bit convoluted, but that's kind of because I'm restricted with the tools that I have. I'm going to put a 4.5mm hole in this guy here, which is the same as the centering bit formed by 34mm annular cutter. So I put the centering bit in there, means that I can center that annular cutter on wherever that hole is, but that's so that I can line up to the bulwark that's below this piece here for this here, so that I can get this bang in the center of the hole and weld this in to the bulwark below. I'm also going to hopefully not move the mag drill. I don't know if this is possible. I'm hopefully not going to move the mag drill, and that will allow me then to knock the 16mm hole that I need, this guy here, all the way through this piece of steel, the stainless here, sorry, and then all the way through the plug, which will at that point be welded into the side of the boat. I don't have to fully weld it, I just have to get it welded in enough, and then yeah, knock this all the way through, and that will give us a nice parallel hole. Now the issue I have is this is quite a long bit. This is I think from memory 50mm or 60mm, something like that. I don't have a centering bit that's long enough to go down the center of this guy here, so that's why we're having to do the alignment prior to using this one here. It's a bit of a faff around, but limited with the tools that we have. This drill is dying. I don't know why, but it seems to have variable RPM, and it chooses the RPM, not me. Right, 4.5mm. Lovely. That should fit perfect, like that. This place does get smaller and smaller when you start putting more and more welding gear in here. Okay, now that I've got that hole centered where I want it to be, I'm going to throw my 4.5mm drill down, get a center, drill this bulwark out. Right, that's a center hole, lovely. I've had a good think about it and I can't think of any good reason not to weld it right now. So I'll weld it right now and then come up with a good reason after it. I'm trying to avoid extra work. I've got this welded in and I've got this pilot hole through all of these. Now normally I would just lift the wing out, put my 32mm bit in, sit it on the 4.5mm hole center, and then drill through this bulwark and start welding in the plug which is down on the ground over there. However, it's a bit of a pain in the neck to put the wing in and out because of the way the winches are at the moment. It's a long story, but the laser dinghy needs to be moved in order to lift the wing out. So rather than doing all of that, I'm going to do the 16mm hole here and push through and do a 16mm in here, and that lines these two up. Okay, so I tried that and I forgot to press record. None of it worked. So we're moving the laser and then moving the wing. Because we don't have winches that are alive, as you can see, this is the internals of an electric motor and this is the gearbox. The motor died, the gearbox is fine. So we just put a drill on it for now. And that's pretty much how we get the wings up and down. Is this solution optimal? Not even close. We do want to replace the winch motors, or the winches in general up there. We were thinking of going hydraulic because hydraulics are really powerful and kind of really decent. It's a decent way of doing it, but it's incredibly expensive. We don't have a big hydraulic system on Brupeg. We do have a massive electric system, so we're probably going to go with electric winches. When it doesn't get used, they get a bit stiff, so I need to get a unstifferizer. Go clear. You can't see it down here, but the mag drill is now clear of the stainless thing, so everything is lovely and good. So when the wing was back up, I lined the 4.5mm hole in the stainless wing tab with the 4.5mm hole that's over here like that. We haven't moved this mag drill. You can see it's clamped down and it's magneted down, so we know it's in line. So in theory we could throw that 16mm down there and drill that out and know that it would be good. Let me think about this. However, we don't need to do that. We're just going to go straight with a 32mm. Okay, hole drilled, we've got the edge cleaned up with the grinder. It's time to get this welded in, but to do that I need to get this plate over top of it again so that I make sure that I haven't got my height completely wrong. I need to give it about maybe 2mm clearance just so that when this here does come up over top of it, it's not going to bind up or do anything funny. So drill in reverse, let's get the wing back up. Here's my jig. So we've got the tab that goes on the wing back in, the wings come back in this way. I've got two 1mm discs, so we've got a wee bit of clearance between the tab and
this blank that we're going to weld in here, and you can see it just sticks out the bottom a little bit as well, but basically most of it is out the top. So I'm going to get some tacks in there, and then we're going to unclamp all of this, drop the wing back, we'll do a weld all the way around so we've got a nice solid connection with the boat, and then we can bring the wing back in and pop a 16mm hole through the whole lot. That's in. Time to bring the wing in. Now I don't have, okay, so if I put the mag drill on here, I don't have, and with this all the way in, I don't have enough room to lift the mag drill all the way up and then get the long 16mm cutter in. So what I'm going to do is put the 16mm cutter in and put the mag drill on and then drill down. Now the downside of doing that is I don't get to line it up perfectly with that hole. However, what I'm thinking is it almost doesn't matter. If this hole is not perfectly centered, if it's slightly off, it really isn't going to be the end of the world. So what I'll do is bring this in, get it pretty much eyeballed as good as I can, and then eyeball the drill onto that hole and then pop a 16mm all the way down through there.
This is slightly terrifying, but let's do it anyway. I forgot the little bit in the middle gets stuck, and I need to get that little tiny piece out of the center. Right, you come out. Alright, so we're not quite lined up, but shouldn't matter, I don't think. And that's why I wanted to do it as one hole. Look at that, isn't that just beautifully lined up? Absolutely perfect. Next trick, I need to put a chamfer on both of these holes. A little small one on the top and a reasonable one on that slug at the bottom. But to do that, we need to drop the wing back down again so we can get to both holes. Alright, we can access both now. At first look, we're not quite centre, but it really doesn't matter. We've got enough meat around all of that. That's why I wanted to do such a big slug. We've got enough meat around all of that that she'll be perfectly strong enough. Right, so we want a relatively small one there, just like that, and then this one needs to be a reasonable size. Like that. Alright, we need to make a pin out of this 16mm solid rod. I'm going to make the same design as this, because it works really well. You got the little hook in here, and it's hard to get your fingers jammed in anywhere. And to get this pin in and out, we need a tape. Got another bit of 16mm cut probably 2/3 of the way through, and now I'm just going to bend it and then weld it. We do have a bit of wind going on, so I don't know how successful this will be. After a bit of bending, a bit of welding, a bit of grinding, that's come up pretty good. So what I'm going to do now is put the little loop in there, because then we can tie this down so that it never comes out when we want it to stay put. Okay, now that we got that belt, it's time to get the wing locked in place.
I'm ready whenever you are.
Right.
Got it!
It's going to be so much easier once we've got new winches and they've got like a control, like an in-out control, because you can stand here and do the control. You know what, like you've got the best view of what's happening when you've got the pin in your hand, sort of thing. So
it is pretty tight, like
yeah, it will be.
A millimetre, a 2 maybe, in or out.
Yeah, there's practically no slop in it.
I really love that because there's no noise and it's really tight.
Yes, 100%.
I love that. We can do that like that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. If there was any play, actually that's what the fishermen said. If they said that's one of the challenges with the wing hinges. As soon as they get play, clonk, 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 clonk every time the boat moves. So, and that's why they ended up changing from the hinges that we've got to the big piano style hinges made out of the big hollow bar, the like really massive hinges, and it's to stop the clonk, 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 clonk. So exactly the same thing will apply with that pin, like you said.
And when we've got everything sorted out, we'll replace those hinges with the piano hinges. We just got to make them, I suppose.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's great, honey.
The second most popular question that we get asked on Brupeg is, when are we going to use these stabilisers?
And I need to take these rusty bolts out, give them a clean up, shorten the length of them so that they're the right length for the stabilisers to bolt down to the deck. And that's the second to last job they have to do before we can use the stabilisers. We're going to use them hopefully this weekend. So to recap everyone, these two blocks of stainless that hold each wing down, they're high tensile stainless, they're 25mm thick, it's 2250 grade stainless, so really strong, tough stainless. These are high tensile bolts. Under the rust you can see it's a 10.9, so basically bolts come in different grades. 10.9 is sort of middle of the road in terms of high tensile strength. It's a very strong bolt, way more than what we're ever going to need. The M30, so this is a 30mm bolt, is what holds the wing locked in place. And that's what they come up like after a bit of a clean up in the wire wheel. You can see the numbers clearly on the top. Now these are going to rust out over time. They're not stainless and they're going to rust out. We didn't want stainless because stainless bolted against stainless is a bad idea in terms of galling. This is possibly also going to gall up, but I'm possibly thinking about changing these out in terms of design just to make them a bit stronger again. However, these are relatively cheap to replace and they will be a consumable item on the boat. I would rather have something that won't gall up and cause us hassle and has to be replaced than something that will gall up and won't rust out. So I've just done the measurements. The depth of that hole, the thickness of the arm right at the very top up there is 46mm. The thickness of the spring washers that we need to use here is 8mm. So we need to chop this down to 54mm from the surface of this area here, the clamping surface, down to the end of the thread up here. And after a bit of faffing around, we have 4 bolts. 2 of them I'll use and 2 of them I'll throw in the bin because I cut them too short. Let's drop these wings, we'll get the arms down to the deck, we'll bolt them in, make sure it all works. That's the first time they're underwater properly. There we go, rope's gone loose, we are down. Let's go and bolt them in. Stainless under here, steel, everything else. Stainless loves to gall, so we're using nickel-based anti-seize. However, these holes aren't quite lined up perfectly at the minute, so as we drop it down and take the tension off the wire, the arm tries to go that way. Obviously the boat and the arm are now not lining up, so what we need to do is bring the arm ever so slightly up, so we put a little bit of tension on the wire, bring the arm ever so slightly back, and it'll clonk it back towards me. We'll be able to screw these in.
Did you see it? It was incredibly small. Here it is sped up quite a lot. You can see how much movement it is in and out that we need to achieve.
They're lining up better, they're feeling much better. And we can probably just wind that in by hand actually. Yeah, close enough. Now, don't make judgments about how difficult this is to do right now. This is the very first time we've ever done this and it's going to be very clunky and messy. We will change the system, modify it, do whatever we need to do in order to make this easy at sea. If you got ideas, I'd love to hear them in the comments. This is a common way that trawlers do it, albeit not quite exactly this way because they normally have a buoy going across and we can't because of the sides, and it's a long story, there's a few other reasons, but I'd love to have extra ideas as to how to improve this. I have thought about doing studs so that it comes down and sort of clonks onto a stud. I kind of like that idea, but it's pretty hard to implement because this top plate here, as it comes down, it sort of does that. So it's not like a flat plate going down on top, so it sort of makes the stud idea a bit hard. It's not to say we can't do that, there might be a way. Maybe we taper the stud in or something, have it, I don't know, yay long, couple of, say, 1.5 inches long, taper it in, something like that maybe. Right now we have low air pressure, and I'm okay with that. For these bolts, I kind of don't want to give them heaps right now. Right, test torque done. And there we go, Brupeg's wing's down. So in murky water like we're in now, you can't actually see the wing once it's down. You can just make it out where it's close to the boat, but you can't see it on the far end. Now, some people have questioned the cable that goes down and holds the wing. There's a very good reason we have it like that. We don't try and like take it away or get rid of it or anything like that. People are worried about it snagging things. It might snag things, but the ease of getting the wing in and out far outweighs the risk of snagging things. We can always unhook stuff, with a boat hook and just get rid of whatever it is that's snagged. We're not gonna create a system where we take that off and leave the wing down without those cables. On a boat like Brupeg, yeah, so some people say it creates drag. Absolutely, it would create drag. If you're in a little yacht, you might notice it. On a Brupeg, you just wouldn't even remotely notice it. This thing drives over sandbars You don't even notice you've driven over a sandbar. It's got that much thrust. It's more like a ship than a small recreational boat in that sense. Other people have asked why we don't lift the wings up and down from the top of the arm so that there's nothing in the water. You physically can't do that. So you can do the first sort of like say 60% of the lift from the arms, but as soon as you get the wings start to get vertical, the arm's getting vertical as well, and you've got nothing that pulls the wing into the hull. And that's why the cable arrangement that we've got, it pulls 100% of the time, it's pulling exactly in the direction that it needs to, and it pulls the wing right up against the hull, as opposed to it's just like a physics thing basically. If you're trying to pull from the top of a triangle, you can't get the center of the triangle to come in, and that's basically why we do it the way we do it. Now what if the cable snaps? Yeah, absolutely, we're going to use the top of the arm with our chain block and we're going to pull it up, and it's going to be awkward and slow and difficult and noisy and all that sort of stuff, but we'll get the wing up. But it's absolutely our secondary means of getting this up, as opposed to using the cable arrangement and the pulleys that we do. Large swells approaching, well, you know, like a dinghy would have zoomed past to make those. Okay, so far can't notice it on the boat. Nothing. Nothing. Here they go. Oh my god, the boat's stable. They can only be put down to the wings. No other reason. Look, they're just rolling past, as if nothing even happened. Alright, it's later in the day, time to get these wings up. I left them down for the day just to sort of see how the boat reacted. It reacts amazing. So a few boats went past during the day and the boat just doesn't move, and that's with one wing down. That's not even having two of them down. So overall, first impressions is it's pretty bloody awesome. Looking down at the wing, what I need to do, I can't take these bolts out with the tension on those bolts, so I need to almost do exactly what we did when we put it down, but in reverse. So I need to pull a little bit of tension on the cable just here, and that'll bring that top plate inwards, and that allows me to take the tension off the bolts and get rid of them, and then we can just lift the wing using the cable. So a little bit of tension, it's probably enough. Alright, so lift her up. It's going to take a while. Everything's good. Moving free. Moving free. Beautiful, coming up lovely.
Oh, there it is. Got it.
Now that the locking mechanism's sorted, we know that we can stow them safely. However, that's not really what they're for, so we kind of need to go out and do a test run. So let's, after 10 years, answer the question, do these wings work? Bloody awesome work. I will. I'll do a range check on you as well to find out how far I can communicate with you.
No.
So the plan is to get off the dock, go out and anchor, and then we can put the wings down. It's just easier when we're anchored to try and get these wings down for the first time. Makes life a bit simple.
So Duncan's just getting the bolts ready to go. So we've got one bolted down hard, and then over this side here we've got the second one bolted down hard, but it's a wee bit hard to get to because of all the stuff down the side deck at the minute, but basically nipped up. Alright, so we'll just get the anchor out of the water, and then we're off. Anchor up. World's slowest anchor. 4 meters a minute. Lightning fast. Ho ho ho. That's particularly lovely, that bit. Surprisingly clean for what it normally comes up like. So both wings bolted down, anchors up, everything's stowed. We're just going to go down and see what it's like in a little bit of waves. Those wings are awesome. So that's pushing quite hard. That's about probably 80% throttle, 70%, something like that. Alright, so we're going to go out into some waves and see what the wings do, but before we do that, I'm going to do an engine room check. So overall, everything in the room is running. The room ambient's about 40 degrees. Everything in the room is running pretty good temps. There's nothing down there that I'm worried about. Throw a bit more grease down the prop shaft. It's all honky dory. Let's press on. So that's cruising through the water at about 8 knots, something like that. Pretty lovely. Trying to see if I can get you some waves there. There's not that much actually happening at the moment, it's quite flat.
So this is a test that we did in the morning before we put the stabilisers down. The sea state's pretty calm, but when we side on to these waves or the waves are on the quarter, the boat's pretty uncomfortable.
You can kind of make out the movement of the boat a bit better looking at these windows on camera. It doesn't show up that much, but you can kind of see the horizon moving around quite a bit.
So this was about a 2-foot swell, or about a 60 centimetre swell, so pretty small. There was not really any wind, it was maybe 8 knots, something like that. But because of the angle, the boat, without stabilisers, does roll around quite a bit.
So this is side on. The waves aren't that big at the moment, but like the boat just doesn't even roll. It's just beautiful. It rolls over when you turn, so it leans out of the turn, if that makes sense. But yeah, in terms of like side to side roll, she's just beautiful. She'll go up and down. The nose goes up and down, as you can see, but side to side she's just so comfy. So this is her cruising along. Very hard to show the waves on the camera. The camera always flattens them off. You can kind of see them here. She's spinning through the water, pretty beautiful. Bit of water comes up on the deck from the wings. Incredible. So that's the sort of stern wake that Brupeg leaves. We're pushing 8.5 knots, so we've got the boat going pretty quick. We don't normally cruise this fast. We normally cruise at 7 to 7.5, 8, something like that. But we are pushing it a little bit. It looks incredibly flat out there, which is disproportionate. Still some good rollers coming through, some good swell. I'd say probably 1/2 metre at least, maybe more. It's pretty flat. There's no white cap, so there's not a lot of wind out here. It's just the slop left over from this morning. Here we go, a little bit of non-subjective filming of how much we're rolling. So we are laying over a little bit because there's wind pushing on one side of the boat, and the waves and everything are coming from one particular side. That's why it's laying over to this side. but you can kind of see there's not a lot of roll going on in the boat. Normally this would be about 9 knots, 9.2, something like that. We've got a bit of a bow wave going on. As you can see, we're copping a bit of water from the spray just coming over. We've picked up a passenger. All right, so wings up, successful test. They were just incredible how much they flattened the boat out. Admittedly, the testing conditions were difficult because the weather had kind of died down, but man, just the noticeable difference. They were incredible. So let's get this anchor up. We'll get back onto the wharf, get Jess on the boat. We'll do a debrief. Yeah, and I think we're going to be heading off soon. Lowest anchor winch in the world again. I think this thing will probably get an upgrade. So we don't actually need to change anything on the motor side up here to speed it up. We need to put more hydraulic fluid to it. So we actually need to put a bigger hydraulic pump, which we have. We just haven't fitted it yet. Daniel Griffith supplied that pump. So it's one of the projects that we have is basically a hydraulic upgrade.
So a couple of things. People often ask, are we going to slow down the boat by having these stabilizers deployed? So top speed, it does take off about 0.3 of a knot. However, at cruise RPM, it doesn't seem to make any difference to the boat speed. And in fact, I reckon it actually probably makes the boat a little bit faster because the boat's not rolling around so much, so the hull doesn't go asymmetric. Overall, the comfort level that these stabilizers give Brupeg is just transformational in terms of how easy the boat is to drive with them, compared to how difficult the boat can be to drive when you've got the weather coming on the quarter and the stabilizers are not deployed.